Welcome all. Max of the Accidental Engineer here. Today we're joined by Steven Striegel. Steven, do you mind introducing yourself for those of us who might not know who you are?
Sure. My name's Steven Striegel. I'm a product designer at a company called MUcS here in the Bay Area.
Cool. So I know what MUX does, but for our audience, what does MUX do?
So MUcS is in the video technology space. So what we do is help companies stream video online. So specifically, our product is an analytics tool. So helping show all this data to engineers and managers about how their video is actually performing so they can make better video online. Because to be honest, a lot of streaming platforms are garbage and they need to be improved. So yeah, it's a fun space.
Cool. So for our audience that doesn't know your background, I know that you grew up in North Dakota in nearby Fargo and went to college around there, and you spent about 3 or 4 years after college as a designer in marketing and product. What made you decide to move out to San Francisco Bay Area?
The burritos, definitely the burritos. Just can't get good burritos in North Dakota.
That's fair.
It's not a thing. No. Yeah, I've kind of been all over the map, I guess. I kind of started out more on the marketing side and had a business degree, but I always kind of took design classes on the side and had an interest for it, but I didn't really know it was a thing. Like in the Midwest, 5-6 years ago, it was like designer. Like, what is that? Is that actually a role, or is that just like this side thing people do? So I kind of slowly worked my way into the graphic design side and would just do like marketing brochures and stuff like that, and kind of turned that into more of a actual design role on the marketing side, and then slowly got more into product and doing product design, which I really loved, was excited about, and then kind of realized there's a lot more of that happening out in the Bay Area, and design is leading more in companies and things like that, and just seemed like the place to be, obviously, for technology and design, and I can meet other designers and learn from people and all that. So yeah, I was just excited to kind of dive into all that goodness.
So I realized you worked a little bit less on the product side of things when you were in Fargo. What was the name of the company you worked for, and what was their product?
Yeah, it was Intelligent Insights.
Mm-hmm.
So it was healthcare tech, actually, which was really interesting, and it was kind of, I guess it was rewarding because we're actually helping hospitals and clinics improve their workflows and stuff like that. So it was kind of a cool space that I was brand new to and kind of had to dive in and learn a lot about the healthcare industry and how screwed up that is in that industry. So no, it was great though. Yeah, and I, like I said, started on the marketing side and was actually a product marketing manager for a little bit, but still doing design work and just kind of doing a lot of different things as you do at startups.
For sure. So moving out to San Francisco and joining tech company Lead Genius, and then now MUX.
Yeah.
What were some of the contrasts as you started working more and more on software products? I guess the company you worked for in Fargo also did software. Yeah. However, what were some of the contrasts?
Ooh, yeah, it's interesting. I think there's a lot. I think, back in Fargo, it was kind of more traditional software companies around there for the most part. I kind of progressive on some of our product development, and we're changing a lot as I was there. But moving out to the Bay Area, everyone's definitely more progressive and continuous deployment and just working really collaboratively with engineers is kind of a new experience for me, but really great.
Does continuous deployment mean that, in contrast to the companies you worked for here in the Bay Area or have worked for here in the Bay Area, are faster in developing and iterating?
Yeah, definitely. Putting stuff out there a lot faster. And I think just more respect for design. I think early on, and design was just newer, in software in general, and it wasn't taken was taken seriously, but it wasn't as much of a priority, I guess. Whereas out here, it's you have to have a designer on the team, right? It's just kind of a known thing, and design has a seat at the table, if you want to say that.
For sure.
Whatever. For sure. But no, it was very different and exciting. So yeah, it's a good thing.
So for our audience that are engineers, what have been some of the experiences you've noticed about working directly with software engineers on the product side of things at MUX?
Things I've noticed? What do you mean? Like,
could be like processes that work or may not work, or feedback mechanisms for you to hand off successfully designs that you want implemented or tested out.
Yeah. So it's a lot of, I don't know how to describe this.
It's okay. Is there like a regular periodicity, like a daily meeting that you guys have that is an
just more
effective
like
practice?
actual process. Yeah, I mean, we do all the standard startup things like stand-ups and...
I don't know. A lot of our audience may not be in startups, maybe in larger companies, and may not even know what a stand-up is.
Right. Well, stand-up, we do it once every day in the mornings, and everyone stands up. The idea is that it's supposed to be a short meeting, so you don't want people sitting down. You just share what you're working on that day and what you hope to complete by the end of that day, and if you have any blockers, and it's just kind of creates more transparency. Everyone knows what everyone's working on.
So a blocker...
A blocker would be, so like design as an example. If I don't have a user flow or like a mock-up finished for some aspect of the product or this feature, the developer can't work on it yet. Or they can, but they're not going to have designs, and it's going to be slower and maybe not come out right or something like that. So that would be a blocker if they're waiting for me to finish a mock-up.
Mm-hmm. Are there improved processes around handing off from design to implementation on engineering side? I mean, probably back when you were in Fargo, I mean, it was as simple as emailing a person, right? Like, here's a ping file or a JPEG file or whatever. But in the Bay Area, people have a way of making things extraordinarily complex. So what are your guys' toolkit for handing off and iterating on design engineering workflow?
Well, they're supposed to be making it easier, not complex, right?
Oh, for sure,
Come
but
on, improving it all. Yeah, we use a lot of different tools, and I don't know, that's the thing. Like, people get hung up on tools a lot of times. Like, oh, what tools does the designer use? What does the engineer use? How do you hand off? Like, I don't know. I've always been using different stuff, and there's always new stuff coming out. It's actually kind of a fun time period, I think, to be working in design and like front end stuff, because there are so many tools, and everyone's trying to figure out like how to make that a better process of handing off between like a front end engineering team and design.
So on the product side of Mux, you guys have a pretty data intensive product in that you guys are surfacing data back to video publishers who have videos that are streaming on their web pages, I guess?
Yeah.
Or in their native mobile apps?
Yeah, wherever. And you guys are trying to provide feedback of some kind and visibility of some kind to these video publishers about how the end user is experiencing the videos. Yeah.
Like, are they getting the high resolution version of the video? Am I doing a good job of explaining that?
Yeah, you're right on, actually.
Okay. So what are the design and engineering roadblocks that you guys are circumventing at this point in time?
Like roadblocks or like problems that we're trying to solve?
Problems you guys are trying to solve.
Yeah. Well, I think like it's interesting just because in general, like companies don't have awareness to that. Like you'd think, when you're watching something, whether it's on your smart TV or your phone, like, and you're waiting for buffering and like playback fails and you just can't even watch the video and you get super frustrated and annoyed and you're like, how's this company so shitty at doing this still? And it's because like a lot of companies just don't even know. Like they don't even, sometimes they'll get like failures or like errors at least, so they'll know if like videos are completely failing, but like some companies just don't even have any visibility into that. So I think first and foremost, it's just interesting just to like surface what's actually happening for the users that are trying to watch videos for these companies. Because I mean, especially like a lot of startups, you create a mobile app, like you're worried about just like getting a video out there, like if it's actually performing and things like that, is kind of like becomes secondary sometimes. And there's like so many other things to be solving, but so I think it's important just like that we surface some of these things in general and just kind of give you a place to see like, hey, how are my videos actually performing? Like, are people actually able to watch them? If they are buffering or failing, like where is that happening at? Which titles are the worst? Different things like that.
So I guess this isn't your guys' product isn't oriented towards a consumer like me who's publishing to YouTube, but rather someone who might be using a non-YouTube hosting service.
Yeah. We can do things with like YouTube and stuff too, but yeah, mainly helping companies that are trying to create their own streaming product or doing streaming on their own platform.
Do you guys support audio only, like podcasts? It seems like that might be a really big marketplace, but
I think it seems like that in the Bay Area, but I don't know.
Outside of the Bay Area,
like
podcasts are not so hot?
Yeah, I think they're like glorified a little too much in the Bay Area. I don't think they're that big of a market. I don't know.
Fair enough.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
No, but we don't focus on audio only. It's all video stuff. So, but like live is, obviously becoming a big thing. So that's something we're working on.
So in 2D data visualization land, what are the problems you guys are working on? I know you have you did a blog post not so long ago about your guys' design process for data visualization, but for our sake, do you mind rehashing a little bit about what you've been working on in your time at Mux so far?
Yeah. Worked on a lot of different stuff. That was a fun one though. So what you're referring to is we redid like all of our charts basically in our product, which is, sounds not like that big of a thing, right? Like, oh, you pick a new charting library or something like that and you implement it and all your charts change. But it's definitely actually a big thing, especially when your product is an analytics tool, right? Like charts, like the way you're visualizing data is kind of the main thing you do. So we wanted to take like a really deep dive at that and make sure we're like thoughtful about it. And so yeah, what I wrote up is kind of like our process and how I went about approaching this. Because you hear like things internally sometimes like, oh, I wish our charts did this, or you hear something from a user like, oh, this was confusing, or they find out they weren't using it the right way, something like that. So my process was like gathering just lots of feedback, and whether it's internal or users saying different things and using different data that we have and measuring how these charts were being used, and then kind of aggregating all that and figuring out like, okay, these are definitely problem areas, like we could really improve this, and kind of clarifying that with the team, and then we just kind of sketched out a bunch of different solutions of how we could improve those issues with our charts, and went through just like mocking up and prototyping a bunch of different types of charts and testing them out and getting feedback on them in front of users, and then we built them and put them out there.
Go figure.
It's like a really quick summary, I guess, of it. But.
Okay. Where did you learn about how the best practices of data visualization work, and how did you inform yourself before going to the drawing board and trying to communicate with internal and external stakeholders about what works in data visualization?
Yeah, the do's and don'ts. Yeah, I don't know. It's I wouldn't call myself an expert on it. Like, actually, I mean, if you look at most of my jobs, they've all been with like data heavy tools. Mm-hmm. So I've worked with data for a while, but it's, I don't know, it's such an interesting area because I don't know, it encompasses a lot, right? And it kind of combines, like what I say in the blog post, it like combines these different worlds of like data visualization is like aesthetics and like visual communication, right? And like just how something looks and how you're perceiving it. But at the same time, it's like using all this, all these calculations and all this aggregation, things that are happening on the back end. And it's like kind of combining these two different worlds that, like I think we've had debates before about like, oh, just give them a table of data, right? Like they just need a table, and
with the numbers, you don't need any visualization.
Like, oh, you can just parse through all that and figure it out, right? Well, not everyone's like great at just reading tables of data, so that's where like visualizations come in. But no, my background on that, I just like read a lot of Edward Tufte books and
as opposed to your undergraduate degree, did you find that you learned a lot more about what you are doing now post college graduation, or did your college degree have much in the way of preparing you for the data visualization specific type of stuff you're doing now?
Yeah, college didn't really do much there. It was like all
this is common among
yeah.
our guests so far.
Yeah. Well, I think especially with like designers and product designers, like it's such a new like field, I think Now it's becoming more popular, obviously, and you have more people graduating with actual design degrees and stuff like that. But a majority of people I meet that are like really talented product designers, they've kind of just taken it on their own and found their own path into it and come from all sorts of different backgrounds. So luckily, like the good part about that is like a lot of people create great resources and tools and stuff out there to, you know, help educate yourself and figure out what product design is and learn about things like data visualization. But yeah, no, it was more me just, like finding out what are some good books on the subject and, you know, reading those. And then a lot of just trial and error. Like I designed some shitty data products in the past and learning how those didn't work and what, best practices are and why those didn't work. And then, you know, read something like, oh yeah, why did I display that table when I should have had this type of visualization or something, you know?
For sure. So a lot of our audience being engineers don't have as much responsibility to go out and seek feedback or elicit feedback from paying customers. So we've talked previously before this recording about how you guys at Mux solicit feedback from your guys' customers. For our audience that doesn't work in a role or have a career yet in doing the type of work you do that's customer facing, how have you solicited feedback from customers around informing your product design?
Yeah. This isn't called the accidental designer, it's the accidental engineer. Is that
go figure.
Trying to remind me of? Okay. So we've done a lot of different processes at the companies I've worked at. And I think in general, it's just like a good rule of thumb, obviously, to like get your engineers in front of customers and see how people are using a product and not just having data for that too. Like people say like, have analytics set up and know how much people are clicking on this and all that. And like, that's great, but there's like no substitute for like having an engineer like sit in front or behind, however you have your room set up, I guess, and watching someone use the product. Because it just helps future conversations. You know, as a designer, like you're kind of steeped in that all the time, and you're looking at the data and you're knowing like where the problem areas are and like what you can improve and all that. But a lot of times engineers like oh yeah, like I know it's painful for that or this workflow or to do this, but when they actually like see someone do it, it just totally changes the conversation. So and on the good side too, like they see the joys and they see like what parts of the product get people excited too. So
is there something prescriptive that you can give us about how teams should, or engineers maybe should, on a weekly basis sit down behind a customer and watch them use whatever software product the engineer's building?
I mean, it's hard, like I don't know. I don't want to be too prescriptive because it's different for every company. Like it really depends what you do. If it's like a consumer-facing app or versus like some giant enterprise product, it really varies. Like, what does your design team look like? What does your engineering team look like? The size of that depends. Everything, I guess, kind of depends. But if you can set up some kind of regular cadence for that, I think that's really valuable because. And we do that at Mux. Actually, we have a weekly feedback call basically with customers. So like every Friday morning, we'll have like a different customer on the phone with us and like screen sharing and like having them try out maybe some new feature we've designed and put a prototype in front of them or something like that. And then if there's like a specific engineer that's working on that with me and going to help me build that, we'll have them sit in with it. And it just creates a great relationship because then you take different things away from that. Sometimes engineers are coming up with better design solutions than I am afterwards, which is totally fine. Which is when I can work with engineers that can come up with better design solutions than me. That's awesome, right?
Perfect.
I've gotten over like having an ego in that area. I think that's a lot of designers think they have to come up with all the best solutions and ideas for designs, but I think sometimes as a designer, you're just facilitating, right? Like as long as you can get out the best solutions, that's a win.
So this is a topic close to both of our hearts because we both live in the San Francisco Bay Area. For our audience that's outside of the San Francisco Bay Area or even outside of other tech hubs, maybe in Fargo, North Dakota, what are some of the trade-offs that you encountered in moving out here career-wise and
can't say there's a lot of trade-offs, right? Like I was in the Midwest, right? And I was very much ready to get out of the Midwest and try something new. So for me, I had kind of like written off a lot of different things at that point and was like just ready to kind of cut ties with the Midwest for a little bit and, do something like San Francisco or New York. And then career-wise, I don't see a lot of trade-offs. Like, I think more of the trade-offs are going to be individual and personal, right? Like, some people have good situations in other areas. But if you have the opportunity, it's a great place to be and all that. But trade-offs are, like if you work in the Tenderloin in the middle of the city and you have people like shooting up right outside your office, maybe some people like don't want to have to deal with that. And I don't know. It's still a big city, and there's some interesting stuff. And I don't know, San Francisco has some things to figure out.
We can leave it at that.
Its own identity, I guess. But career-wise, I mean, it's definitely a great place. Like, still amazed with some of the people I get to meet at different events and stuff like that. People you look up to and follow on Twitter. Watch videos of. Yeah. Online and just like being around that and being able to kind of. I don't know, just like strike up a conversation with anyone about something you're passionate about is really cool.
Is there a different distribution of businesses here in San Francisco versus the Midwest when it comes to design role opportunities? Like, I don't know if video performance analytics is necessarily somebody might dream up as a startup out in Fargo. Are the job opportunities out here, besides compensation, very different from how they are out in Fargo?
Well, yeah, obviously there's like, it's the epicenter of, all the startups, for better or for worse. No, Fargo though, I gotta, give a little plug for Fargo because it's got its own cool little tech
plug
scene.
Fargo.
Yeah. It's got a like cool little tech scene happening there. It's actually has Microsoft's second biggest campus in Fargo.
Okay.
So you get, a lot of like talent and stuff, that are in the area, and the downtown space has some cool startups and stuff like that, and just like really it's a town that really supports its businesses, and especially like small ones and ones that are growing, things like that, and the community is just really behind it, and there's lots of TEDx events and stuff like that going on all the time. So we can't knock Fargo too much. But
no one should be knocking Fargo.
But compared to obviously the Bay Area, there's just more, right? Like there's just more startups, more companies, more opportunities, especially with design. Like companies, like I said, that value design out here it's just really cool to see, and I think you see that in other areas now too. But
one of the things that I found surprising moving out to the Bay Area is how much more prevalent working from home is. Or distributed teams where members of the team are geographically all over the place, and during the course of a weekday when people are working business hours wise, you have a distributed team where a designer might be in San Francisco, your engineers might be in God who knows, Brazil or Missouri. What's been your experience with the trials and tribulations of working with coworkers on a less regular basis than you might have in Fargo, where people might work from home 2 to 3 days a week? How do you guys keep your productivity up as a product team at Mux?
Well, it's all the amazing, great solutions that people are creating out here, right? Like making everything easier and more simple.
Specifically, though?
No, I mean really tools like Slack and just I don't know. There's lots of just collaboration tools I think that we use on a day-to-day basis that make stuff like that really easy. So and just different stuff for like sharing designs and making it easier for people to work together remotely. I don't know. I don't know. I guess Google Hangouts still is garbage, but
sorry, Google.
No, I don't know. There's enough stuff out there now, like making it pretty easy, I think. I don't know. Is that what you're asking, or what do you like? Yeah, like I think remote work is obviously going to become more and more of a thing, and there's going to be more stuff to support that. So getting comfortable with working with people remotely is obviously important. And I think once you do like it, I don't know. I think it's nice. It's allows more flexibility, and people can be traveling all over the country and still cranking out products, and yeah, it's kind of fun.
So I think we should absolutely, before we call it a day, give you guys a chance to plug, any roles that Mux is hiring for. We've covered a bit about what you guys do, but are you guys hiring right now?
Yeah, definitely. We're growing. I think we're always looking for engineers. Like it's our, it's a developer product. So, yeah. So, or if you're working on video, I know a good company that's makes tools to help build video. So,
yeah,
reach out. I'm on Twitter and usually respond to stuff, and I don't know, would be happy to answer any more questions of things I answered poorly here.
We'll include the links in the show notes. I want to plug real quick that you guys should totally subscribe to the email newsletter, the YouTube channel, and like Steven suggested, you can hit him up on Twitter. We also have comments section where I'll forward any questions you guys have to Steven, and he'll reply to you guys. Dude, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.